senior producer from NFL Films, Greg Cosell, joining us, also co-host of ESPN's NFL Matchup Show. And Greg Cosell's appearance is presented by Scott Lawn Yard, an official commercial site work partner of the Buffalo Bills. Well, Greg, a barn burner of a game, certainly entertaining if you didn't have a skin in the game. But Bills fans are obviously sore with how that thing turned out, knowing they were pretty close to handing the Eagles the first home loss of the season.
Yeah, it was a great football game. I thought the Bills' offense was really, really good. I thought Josh Allen played a great game. You could argue he may have been as good an offensive player in the league this week. Defensively, look, you guys know this. I mean, there unfortunately been games where they've been ahead late and the defense has had to hold and they didn't. I think if they had held, and I think there's 4 games you could probably look at, they'd be 10-2 and we'd be having a totally different conversation.
Yeah, but that's it. You get to these games, and this has kind of been why Bills have been so frustrating for their fans. You get into they can't get beat. They don't never get beat by double digits, right? They're always these things. They're in these things right down to the end, and it always comes down to that one last play by the other team, or the mistake by the Bills, or a call by the official, or that. It's always some little different thing because the games are always so close. You tend to look for this huge problem, like, are they getting out coached? Are they getting outplayed? Do they have not enough good players? And really, the simple fact of the matter is it's a hard league to win in, and they're a hard team to beat.
No, I would agree with that. I mean, they never, rarely ever. I can't remember every single game going back the last number of years, but it's funny. The record over the last number of years, notwithstanding this year's 6-6, has been really, really good. And, unfortunately, only one team wins a Super Bowl. And then if you're really good for 2, 3, 4 years, people start talking about Super Bowl windows. They of course, start talking about your quarterback, saying, well, he's not good enough to win a Super Bowl. You know how all these conversations go, Steve and Brownie. But, they're a very competitive team. Watching that game, and I watched a good amount of it live as well. Normally I don't do that, but it was the late game, so there weren't that many late games on the red zone. So I ended up watching a lot of this game live. And boy, it just, after the Eagles went 3 and out to start the second half, I was just starting to think, man, Bills are going to win this game. They're just controlling this game. They're dominating this game. It just felt right. And, then the Eagles, and then Swift started the next drive with a 36-yard run. And I'm not saying that changed my whole worldview, but I just felt like, man, that's the kind of play that just, you can't give up that kind of play, because they were really controlling the game.
Yeah, I wanted to get your thoughts on this, Greg, because in the first half, Jalen Hurts looked as uncomfortable as I have ever seen him. Curiously, the Eagles chose not to run the ball in the first half against a defense that was giving up 4.5 yards per carry on average. I was stunned by the first half game plan of the Eagles. What about you?
Well, here was my thought. I mean, again, I think you can say that, and I'm not a big I don't really rip coaches for game plans. My guess is here's what they thought. They thought that they had Brown and Smith on the outside, and they're better than Douglas, who was playing boundary corner, and Bedford the field corner, because that's what the Bills do, as you guys know. They play field and boundary. They don't switch and they don't match. And they probably felt, even with Driscoll playing right tackle, that they could protect well enough to be able to really make some explosive big plays in the pass game, Brownie. And, obviously when it doesn't work, then you say, oh, gee, they should have run the ball. But I think I'm sure, let's put it this way, I'm sure they felt that. I'm sure they felt with their receivers and their pass game that they could come out and throw the ball and be very effective and maybe, relatively speaking, put the game away somewhat early.
And what do you think of the Bills' ability to run the football in this game? I was a little shocked at 173 yards against the Philly run defense. I was a little surprised by that.
Yeah, but I think, Steve, that was a lot of Josh. I mean, in terms of Murray and Cook, other than that drive, the final fourth quarter touchdown drive, if I'm not mistaken, when they started the drive with 3 consecutive 10-plus yard runs, that was the final fourth quarter touchdown drive, correct? Yes.
Yes.
Other than that, they didn't necessarily run it with the backs really, really well. It was Josh. And some of that was by design, obviously, and some of that was second reaction outside of structure. And he was phenomenal doing that, by the way. So I didn't necessarily think they dominated running the football. I think it was part of what they did, but I don't think it was one of those where I felt like, man, they're just coming out and they're just pounding the Eagles. The game, they ran 92 offensive plays. That is an unbelievable amount of offensive plays. I mean, the Eagles, because of injuries, they had to play Jordan Davis 62 snaps, Jalen Carter 76 snaps. I mean, there were stretches when those guys were clearly tired. But yeah, this was a Josh Allen game. This was the Josh Allen we sort of know that he's capable of any given week. He had 400 plus yards by himself. We're seeing a run here, but he made a couple of really big time throws. And then there's just other plays that you wish you had back. The Cook drop, which was in the first quarter, I believe.
First drive.
I don't think it was a designed wheel. I think he turned that up, but the point is he dropped what should have been a touchdown.
Yeah, and there were a handful of others as well. There's no question about that. What were your thoughts about Buffalo's defense? They give up 30 points in the second half.
Yeah.
We know that they are hamstrung due to the absences in their lineup. They have to play players with limitations, and those players, unfortunately, have played enough where they are now being outright targeted by opponents. The film doesn't lie, and the defensive coordinator, in this case Sean McDermott, can only do so much to kind of cover up those deficiencies, it would seem.
I mean, I think eventually that does get you, as you said. I thought the key drive was that first touchdown drive in the third quarter on the second possession, because it started with the Swift 36-yarder. I thought they did a really good job. There was an example, Brownie, where I thought the play calling and design by Brian Johnson, the offensive coordinator for the Eagles, was really, really good. He understood not only the players he was playing against, but what the Bills were defensively. They're an over front, meaning they shift their defensive line to the strong side of the formation, and he did a really good job in the run game, and plays worked off one another. The final touchdown, which was the 3-yarder to Brown, was basically the same exact look as 2 plays earlier when they hit Stoll. All those plays worked really well in tandem together, and I thought that drive kind of got the Eagles going. Now, then when you hit, and then I think on the next drive, he hit Smith for 33 yards, Hurts did, which was actually, given how they were playing the Bills, that is, on defense, that was another really good call because it attacked what the Bills were doing. Then you had the Smith 15-yard touchdown, a great call. And I don't know what else to say about Zacchaeus' 29-yarder. That's just a great, Hurts being a great player, making a great throw, and Zacchaeus going up and get it. Those are the kinds of plays, Josh Allen and the Bills make those plays too, and we rave about them. So when the opponent makes them because they're capable of it, those are the plays, I don't really know what to say about because they're just great individual plays.
I would say the Smith touchdown was a blown coverage because you had the corner and the slot. They both jumped the under together in the same area. It appeared to me, just watching it live, I haven't gone back and watched it other than
I'll tell
replay.
You what happened. I mean, I know
because
exactly
Hyde got hung out to dry in between. He was in no man's land. I mean, Jalen Hurts could have thrown it to A.J. Brown on the corner, or he could have thrown it to Smith. They were both wide open.
Yeah, here's what happened on that, Brown. Again, I don't know how Sean McDermott would view it, but I didn't see it as a blown coverage in the way you're talking. They were the Eagles put Swift in motion to the trip side, making it 4 strong, 4 receivers to one side, and then they showed tunnel screen action to Jones with 2 verticals behind it by Brown on the outside and Smith from the slot. And 2 guys jumped the tunnel screen action, and what happened is that put Hyde in major conflict. Hyde essentially was a safety. You had to play 2 verticals.
Yeah.
And you can't play 2 verticals.
Yeah, he got hung out to
I don't know if that was technically a blown coverage as much as the Eagles forced the situation where they put Hyde in a bind that, you can't play 2 verticals.
I got to believe one of those corners has to take the outside quarter of the field, right? I mean,
Well, and I think he jumped the tunnel screen action.
Yeah, he
That was
did.
the whole point
Right.
of the
Yeah.
tunnel screen action is to get. So, I mean, if you want to take the old Bill Belichick do your job, then you're probably right. But that was the reason the Eagles showed the tunnel screen action.
Yeah.
Right. So what do you? And this game comes out down to the end of the game, in a driving rainstorm. What's your take? And you got even Bills fans. You got to tip your hat to the Eagles hitting a 59-yarder at
man.
the end to send that into
Play
the
of the game.
overtime. I mean, it's an unbelievable moment.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, that's another kind of thing. What do you say about that? I mean, first of all, the guy is a great kicker, but it's a 59-yarder in the rain, and it's again,
On grass.
people keep asking me, what did the Eagles do that was so great? And I'm thinking to myself, well, they made a couple of really good plays that were designed, but then Hurts made that play to Zacchaeus. This, Elliott hits a 59-yard field goal. I mean, I don't know what you say. The Bills they went on the road against arguably the best team in football. They played a great game. Josh Allen was phenomenal. Maybe it's just emblematic and representative of this particular season. Every once in a while, those things happen, and I don't know what you say.
Yeah, it's happening more than once in a while. It seems on a year like this for the Bills, but it's just further into this Sean McDermott era of football when you lose close games, people want to blame one thing, but you look back at the 6 losses and even the ones where you said like the Bills had the lead late and couldn't hang on to it. Even those games were completely different reasons each and every game for why the game didn't go the Bills' way.
No, I mean it's one of those years. It's been a very odd year. And obviously I'm sure everybody's talking about the final play to Davis. Again, I don't know the answer to that because no one's going to tell you the truth. That's just the way it is. That, Steve and Brownie. No one's going to tell you the real truth. The only thing I know is what I've been told over the years by coaches, but it doesn't mean it was the case here. Is that when it's 0 and the middle's open, somebody has to go to the middle because the middle's open. There's no post safety. But I don't know how they do it, and so it's I can't sit here and I can watch it with my clicker 100 times and I'm still not going to know the answer.
Yeah. I don't want to get into matchups with Bills Chiefs. We'll save that for next week when we catch up with you, Greg. But just the Chiefs overall and what they are now, it's my belief that the defensive unit has taken over as the strength of this football team. Spagnuolo's really got that side of the ball humming for them. They're third in the league in points allowed. So even though their offense has sputtered at times, it hasn't really cost them games all that often, because their defense has been so outstanding. Where do you see it has improved the most?
Well, first of all, I agree with your general point 1,000%, Brownie. The defense, for the most part, has been what's carried this team. Their offense has been very, very up and down. They're really, really good up front. They have 4 or 5 players, Brownie, that can line up all in different positions. So they're very multi-dimensional and multi-positional up front. I think their safeties have improved. They play a lot of dime. Close to 30% of their snaps on defense come out of dime, and they've got 3 safeties who are essentially interchangeable. Now, normally Justin Reed is the tight end matchup, and we'll see what happens when they play the Bills next week with Kincaid. But they're really interchangeable to a large degree. And they've made a change this year. Snead no longer plays in the slot at all. He's the outside corner, Brownie, and McDuffie is their slot corner, and McDuffie's really good in the slot because he's very physical, very competitive, and he can cover.
And it also starts at the other end with Chris Jones.
Oh, he's the key because teams, what happens is they know that teams slide protection to Chris Jones, Steve, and so they're able to work a lot of pressure concepts off of that.
Yeah.
Right.
Any games this week that really catch your eye, Greg, for Bills fans that will be watching other football this week?
Well, for Bills fans, I mean, obviously, because they're 6-6, they're hoping, Denver-Houston becomes a huge game for Bills fans.
Yeah.
I mean, Denver's won 5 in a row. They've got the most consecutive wins of any team in the AFC. Kansas City, Green Bay is still an interesting game, obviously, because, we just spoke Kansas City, but they're going to Green Bay. I guess Arizona, Pittsburgh too. Isn't that Pittsburgh is a wild card team right now. They're not a division leader. So, those are games that probably Bills fans will have their eye on, but they don't have an easy road when they come back from the bye, guys, as you well know.
Yeah. They're
Yep,
and
toughest
Bills fans,
remaining strength of schedule in the league.
Bills fans will be cheering for
Then isn't it Dallas? Don't they play Dallas?
Yep,
Yeah, they've got Dallas, then LA Chargers as well after that.
on the road.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, and I think Bills fans will be cheering for the Tennessee Titans as well this week against the 6-5 Colts, who
for
are
sure.
up there. So
For
yeah,
sure.
all of that.
But,
it's pretty self-explanatory when you look at the standings.
Yeah, I mean, right now the bottom line is the Bills just they basically have to win out. I mean, it'd be hard pressed. I guess 7 losses could get you in, but they pretty much have to win out.
Right. Yeah. If you don't want help,
we know they're capable of doing that, but it's a tough road.
it is a tough road, no question about it. Greg, thanks very much. We'll catch up with you next week.
All right, guys, have a great weekend. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg.